You lie in your bed, warm and weightless, listening to the hush of the world around you. The room feels still, as if the night itself is holding its breath. But beneath the stillness, something stirs. Not noise, not motion, something quieter. Deeper, a pulse in the silence. A waiting, you cannot see it, but your body knows it. In your chest, your heart beats gently. In your lungs, air moves in and out, a tide that never stops. On the skin of your arms, molecules of heat drift softly. Into the cooler air, one by one, like birds lifting from the surface of a lake. You feel nothing change, but everything is changing. Stillness is an illusion. Even now, in the quiet of night, the universe moves. Your mattress holds your weight, yet within its fibers, atoms quiver and stretch. The floor, the walls, the very air around you, all are made of things that do not rest. They vibrate, rotate, spin. They dance without music. This is where entropy begins, not in destruction or chaos, but in the gentle promise of movement. You are surrounded by invisible dancers. At the atomic level, everything has motion, not because something pushes it, but because it must. The laws of physics say that energy cannot sit perfectly still. Even at temperatures near absolute zero, colder than space, colder than thought. The tiniest motions remain. Nothing can be frozen into absolute silence, not really. Not forever. This trembling of the world is the seed of change. Entropy is not a force that knocks things over. It is the whisper that says, "This cannot stay." A drop of ink in water. A tower of blocks balanced too long, a warm hand touching cold glass. Change waits in every corner of the world, not rushing, just ready. You are part of that readiness. Inside you, cells divide, chemicals shift shape. Electrons leap from place to place. Your own thoughts flicker between neurons like lightning too soft to hear. Even when you sleep, your body is becoming. Every second brings some new arrangement, however small. Some old pattern dissolves, some warmth drifts away. And none of it can ever go backward. The second law of thermodynamics says, in a closed system, disorder tends to increase. But what does that mean, really? Imagine you place all the red marbles in one jar and all the blue ones in another. That's order. But if you shake the jars and pour them into one, the colors mix. And no matter how long you wait, they won't separate again on their own. This is entropy. It is the drift from arrangement to randomness, from simplicity to variety, from certainty to surprise. But entropy isn't a villain in this story. It's not something breaking the world. It's something letting the world grow. Without it, stars wouldn't shine, trees wouldn't sway, your coffee would never cool. Entropy is what makes time feel like time, a one-way river, flowing from before to after, never doubling back, and in that river you float gently. You breathe in the present and breathe out the past. You don't notice the heat leaving your skin or the order slowly loosening in your surroundings. You are part of it all. This calm unraveling, this dance toward complexity. Close your eyes. Imagine a snowflake landing on a warm surface. Perfect for a moment, then melting into water, then evaporating into air. Gone, but not lost, changed, spread into something wider, softer. The snowflake's shape has ended, but its energy goes on. This is how the universe works. It remembers by letting go. The room around you is still. But it is a stillness full of preparation, a calm stage before the curtain lifts. You feel the weight of your body, the softness of fabric, the hush of night. But deep inside, in the tiniest particles of your being, everything moves, not in panic, not in haste. Just the inevitable drift of energy from here to there, from sharpness to smoothness, from difference to sameness. Entropy doesn't tear things down, it lets them settle. It lets them breathe. And now, as your mind begins to loosen its grip, you find yourself drifting too. Thought by thought, idea by idea, uncoiling gently into softness. You don't need to chase anything here. You are in the first moment, the moment before motion becomes visible. The hush before the tide turns. Stillness is never truly still. In every quiet, there is the seed of unfolding. And as the seed opens, something new begins. A slow warmth, a drift, a softness that cannot return to its earlier shape, and in that warmth, you begin to feel it, the heat that will never quite come back the same way again. You wrap your fingers around a warm mug. The ceramic is soft with heat, and for a moment you feel held by it. Your palms begin to absorb that gentle energy, not all at once, but gradually, as though the warmth is telling a story as it leaves. This is what heat does. It moves from hot to cold, from concentrated to dispersed. It never stays where it began. And once it goes, truly goes, it doesn't come back in the same form, not without effort. Not without loss. The warmth of your mug doesn't disappear. It travels into your skin, into the air, into the tabletop beneath it. But in spreading out, it loses its usefulness. You can't gather it all up again and make the mug hot like before, not unless you add something new. Energy must be added in to reverse what entropy has softly unraveled. This is the one-way nature of heat, the core of entropy. Hot things cool down, ordered things fall into disorder. The universe, left alone, always tends to spread, to soften, to blur the lines between what once was different. The warmth of your drink flows into the air around it, evenly, invisibly. And once the warmth has spread too far, you can no longer feel it. That's the quiet truth of thermal energy. It loves to share. But in doing so, it fades. The laws of thermodynamics tell us that heat always flows from warmer bodies to cooler ones, always. It's not just a suggestion, it's a law written into the bones of reality. This is why your tea gets cold, why the fire eventually dims, why a freshly baked loaf steams for only a little while before it settles into room temperature. No matter how precious the warmth feels, it cannot last in its concentrated form. And yet that loss is not wasteful, it is natural. It's how stars shine, releasing the energy of fusion outward. It's how your body stays alive, burning calories and shedding the heat as breath, as sweat, as the soft touch of skin against cooler sheets. You are a furnace in miniature, constantly releasing warmth into the world. And though you might not notice it, the universe notices. It accounts for every movement, every transfer. Nothing escapes its quiet bookkeeping. Even memory in some way is connected to this drift. The firing of neurons in your brain, tiny sparks of electrical and chemical energy, generates heat. And that heat escapes too. Thoughts come and go, and with them, warmth passes into the air. You forget something not only because your mind is busy, but because time and entropy tug on all things. Everything that loses heat gains entropy. That's the quiet trade, order for spread, focus for freedom. The more evenly energy is shared, the less special any part of the system becomes. And so the universe prefers sameness. It prefers that heat be spread out, not clumped. You can think of entropy like dye in water. A drop falls in, vibrant, distinct, but as time passes, it spreads. The water becomes tinted evenly. The dye is still there, but it can't be separated easily anymore. The system becomes more mixed, more blended, and the energy that once seemed sharp becomes soft. This is the direction of time. Not forward by clock, but forward by flow. Time moves in the same direction as entropy, from less disorder to more. That's why you never see steam return to tea. Why footprints don't rise out of sand. Why warmth, once passed into the night, never finds its way back quite the same, but in that drift, there is something beautiful. You hold the warm mug not because it lasts, but because it fades. The brief moment of comfort is precious because it will end. The passing of heat is a story of connection between the mug, your hands, the room, the air. Every transfer is a touch. Every loss is a sharing. Even now, the heat in your own body is drifting away, gently, quietly, through the sheets, into the mattress, into the night, and the night welcomes it. Not to take it, but to balance it. To bring all things into a gentle kind of sameness, you exhale. Warm breath into cooler air. That's entropy. 2. Your inner warmth softening into the world. And in this moment, you are part of something vast and natural, a process older than stars, a law deeper than thought. And as the warmth leaves your fingertips and your tea cools on the bedside table, you begin to understand what leaves does not vanish. It simply chooses a wider home, dot, and in that widening, something else. Begins a slow, inevitable change in structure. Like ice learning how to melt. You place an ice cube on the counter. Clear, angular, precise, it waits, but not for long. Even before your eyes can notice, change begins. Molecules near the surface tremble more than the ones inside. A glossy wetness blooms. And in the stillness, the melt begins. Melting is not dramatic. It does not shout or rush. It is a soft unraveling, the quiet departure of form. A crystalline pattern once held tight now loosens molecule by molecule. Structure gives way to flow. Coldness begins to fade. It isn't chaos. It's transition. You watch the puddle grow and something inside you understands. This is more than just ice. This is time expressed through water. The cube held a memory, a pattern, and now it lets it go. Slowly, patiently, in its own rhythm, you feel warmth in the room around you, even if you cannot name it. That warmth is what invites the ice to change. It gives the molecules more energy, more movement, more freedom. And with freedom comes loss of structure. This is the heart of entropy, not destruction, but permission. Permission to stop holding on. Dot inside every frozen thing is the possibility of softness. The ice does not fight. It does not fear. It accepts the warmth and yields to it, transforming into something new. And once changed, it cannot return without effort, without intervention. It remembers the shape it once had, but it no longer fits. Entropy loves transitions like this. When something ordered becomes free, when boundaries blur and symmetry dissolves, entropy increases. The melting of ice is not just about temperature, it's about letting go of exactness, of precision, of pattern. There is beauty in this loss. In every drop that forms there is a trace of the structure that was. Each molecule of water once belonged to a precise lattice, locked in place. Now it moves freely, bumping gently against its neighbors. The world has become more fluid, more spread out. More entropic are made of structures that shift, thoughts soften, memories blur. Rigid feelings dissolve in the warmth of time. Nothing in your body stays frozen forever. Change is your nature. The architecture of your mind is built to reshape. And in reshaping you grow. Time itself is tangled with entropy. You know it not because clocks tick, but because things melt. Because ordered systems fall apart. Because your tea cools, your body ages, your footprints wash away. Time is experienced through the gentle decline of precision. You think of the ice again, now more water than solid. Its shape no longer holds. Its identity has blurred. And yet it is not gone. Just different. Just looser. Just ready for the next step. Perhaps that is what change really is. Not an ending, but a new availability. A different way of being. The cube didn't vanish. It simply returned to flow. You feel your breath rising and falling. That, too, is a cycle of form and change. Warm air leaves your lungs and softens into the night. Structure loosens. Heat spreads. Nothing is wasted. Only redistributed. Even stars melt in their own way. They radiate their heat, losing their brilliance slowly over time. Their fusion gives birth to light, but light means change. And change means entropy, always creeping forward like warmth across a room. You glance again at the small puddle. On the counter, it shines softly in the low light. A trace of the ice cube remains, but it no longer clings to its shape. It has become part of something larger, quieter, and as you close your eyes, you wonder if ice can melt without pain, without resistance. Can other structures do the same? Even those sealed away in boxes, trapped in their own shape. Even they must begin to shift. Picture a simple box, closed, silent, still on the outside. But inside, a cloud of gas waits. At first, every particle, tiny, invisible, restless, begins in a neat little cluster in one corner. It's not natural, but you've arranged them that way, aligned, contained, ordered. They vibrate gently, bouncing off each other like dancers in a too small room, and then you open the space inside. You let them roam freely through the box. They don't rush. They simply move, one by one, in random directions. A bounce here, a nudge there, no leader, no plan. just movement born from their own inner energy. And slowly, beautifully, they begin to spread. At first, the change is small. A few stragglers drift out of the corner. But over time, more follow. The clump loosens, the crowd dissolves. The once concentrated gas begins to fill the entire space, evenly, smoothly, without needing to be told what to do. This is entropy in motion, not loud or sudden but inevitable. Given enough time, systems forget how they started. Particles forget their cluster. Heat forgets its source. And everything moves toward a kind of sameness, not because it's forced, but because it's simply more likely. There are more ways for things to be spread out than to be clumped. More ways for randomness than order. So the universe favors spread, favors drift. Favors letting go. You see this every day, in cream swirling through coffee, in scents drifting from a candle, in a drop of dye seeping through water. All of these are boxes without walls, spaces where things move from order to dispersion. Even in your thoughts, this happens. One idea begins clearly, sharp and focused. But over time, new thoughts join in, memories wander. Clarity fades. Your mind, like the box, fills with movement. And though it may feel like you've lost something, what you've really done is let it expand. This is not failure. It's not forgetting. It's the nature of systems that breathe. Entropy doesn't erase. It rebalances. Even when the box is sealed tight, with no outside influence, the particles inside do not stay still. They collide, they ricochet, they trade energy. They rearrange themselves into a state that is, statistically, far more probable. They seek equilibrium. Equilibrium isn't peace, though it may look like it. It's the state where nothing dramatic changes anymore, not because nothing moves, but because movement has reached a balance. The particles still dance, but now they do so in every direction with no preference. No corner is special anymore. The memory of the starting point is gone. You may wonder, why can't they all just gather again in that corner? Why doesn't the order come back? It could, in theory. Nothing physically prevents it. But the odds are so small, so impossibly small, that you'd have to wait longer than the lifetime of the universe to see it happen. Nature prefers possibility, and there are far more ways for things to be disordered than to be tidy dots, so the gas stays spread. The box stays full. The memory dissolves, and you, resting in your own box of stillness, your room, your bed, feel that same principle humming in the background of your body, warmth slowly spreading outward, thoughts expanding softly, energy distributing itself through breath and muscle and quiet. Even your memories, tucked away, shift gently with time. Everything drifts. Everything seeks balance. And as the last few particles settle into their scattered rhythm, you find yourself wondering if stars are made of gases too. Do they forget where they started, even as they burn? You close your eyes and imagine yourself floating, not through dreams but through space, vast, dark, and velvet silent. A place where the only sound is light. You pass stars, countless scattered stars, each one a furnace burning in defiance of the cold, each one a protest against stillness, an explosion stretched out over millions, even billions of years. But these stars are not immortal. They are beautiful precisely because they are temporary. To shine, a star must burn. And to burn, it must give away its most precious thing, its order. Inside each star, hydrogen atoms are pressed together. With unimaginable force, they fuse, they form helium. In that act, that union, energy is released. Light, heat, motion, it radiates outward in every direction. A gift to the darkness. You feel that warmth as you drift past, not on your skin, but in your understanding. That light took thousands of years to reach you. And with it, the star gave up something it can never reclaim. This is entropy on a cosmic scale. Each burst of light a surrender. Each flare a loosening of the star's grip on its own structure. And yet, it doesn't stop. Stars burn for eons, trading their tightly packed atoms for a universe flooded with energy. They fight gravity too. A silent war inside every sun. Gravity pulls inward, trying to collapse the star. Fusion pushes outward, resisting. It is a perfect balance for a while. But the fuel runs low. The hydrogen dwindles. The core tightens, the light falters, the star begins to change. Some die gently, expanding into red giants, then shedding their outer layers like whispers, leaving behind pale, dense embers, white, dwarfs glowing faintly as they cool over time. Others die in fury, collapsing inward, then exploding in brilliant supernovas, scattering heavy elements across the cosmos, the raw material for planets, for oceans, for breath and bone. But no matter the ending, the story is the same. A life of energy given, entropy earned. And in return, the universe receives complexity. All the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your lungs, forged in the hearts of dying stars, made by the entropy of suns. So when you look at the stars, you are looking at your ancestors, not just metaphorically, but chemically, and still they burn, millions of them, each giving itself away, bit by bit, each becoming slightly more disordered, so the universe can become slightly more interesting. Without entropy, the stars would not shine. Without entropy, life could not begin. It is the very act of losing energy in a structured way that allows complexity to emerge. You float farther now, past stars that are old, tired, their light is dim, their edges soft. You feel no sadness, only awe. Even the dimmest star gave everything it had so that something else could be warm. Eventually, all stars will cool. Even the white dwarfs will fade. Entropy promises that. In the far future, the night will grow quiet. No more fusion. No more fire, just the scattered ashes of brilliance, but not yet. Tonight, there is still light, still heat, still motion. And you feel that in your body, your own heat, your own pulse. You too burn in miniature. You are a small sun, giving off warmth with every heartbeat. And like the stars, you do not lose energy in vain. You give it to the air, to the space around you, to the quiet places where your breath lands. Even in rest, you glow. And somewhere, quiet, distant, constant, a star gives its last burst of light to a dark, waiting sky. And as that light travels outward, soft and slow across space, you wonder, if energy can never be destroyed, then where does all the starlight go once it leaves the fire? You sit quietly, holding a warm cup between your hands. The scent rises softly, deep, rich, familiar. You take a small pitcher of cream, tilt it, and watch as pale ribbons spiral into the dark. They don't stay separate for long. The cream stretches, curls, vanishes into the warmth. No matter how carefully you pour, how still the room is, the swirl begins, gentle, hypnotic, inevitable. In moments it becomes something new, not cream, not coffee, but both now indistinguishably one. And what's most curious is this, it never goes back. You could wait minutes, hours, years. The mixture will never unmix. The cream won't crawl back to the surface, won't regather into the tidy shape it once held. The process only moves in one direction, from separation to blend, from memory to mixture. This is entropy again, this time in your morning ritual. It prefers mixing, it loves spread. It whispers gently, let the boundaries go. There are countless more ways for things to be combined than to be neatly sorted. The universe, left to its own devices, always favors the messier beauty. Imagine trying to separate each droplet of cream once it's dissolved into coffee. You'd need impossible precision. Perfect knowledge of every molecule's path, every collision, every motion, every swirl reversed. But you can't undo the dance, and neither can the universe. That's the truth of systems moving forward. They can't rewind, because each step forward creates more possibility, more arrangements, more freedom. Even in your own life, this pattern is familiar. Memories don't unmix, moments don't return. You blend with each day, gaining, losing, becoming, but don't mistake this for loss. The blended thing is not lesser. It is simply different, deeper. More open, your coffee is still warm in your hands. Still swirling though, now invisible. The molecules inside still move, bumping softly, carrying little bits of heat from one place to another. That movement is entropy's quiet music. It doesn't need fanfare, it needs only time. And over time, everything tends toward mixture. Not out of laziness, but because mixture is a richer state, more connections, more motion, more ways to exist. You watch the last of the cream disappear, a soft blend, a surrender to becoming. And though it's ordinary, you understand now that it mirrors the stars, the cells in your body, the very breath you just released. All things seek balance, all things mix. Entropy doesn't destroy structure, it asks it to evolve, to share, to become more open to others. And so the cream becomes coffee, the coffee becomes warmth. The warmth becomes part of you. And you sit there, quiet, no longer waiting for things to return to how they were, because you understand now they're not meant to. And in that mixture, something else stirs, a sense that your body too follows these same rules. That your breath, your blood, your heat, they all move forward in one direction, toward change, toward complexity, toward time, which, like every breath, only ever moves one way. You open your eyes slowly, and though the room is quiet, you feel something always moving beneath the silence. Something invisible, gentle, but unstoppable. It is time. Not just the kind that ticks on clocks, but the deeper kind, the kind that only flows forward. You've never seen time go backward. Not in life, not in nature, not in the swirl of galaxies or the folding of old skin. Everything ages, spreads, shifts, never rewinding. Why? Because of entropy. Entropy, the quiet law that governs the shape of change, is what gives time its direction. It doesn't pull the seconds, it unfolds the possibilities. Think of a sandcastle. You build it carefully on the shore, each tower perfect, each wall straight. Then the tide comes. It doesn't rebuild. It smooths, erases, blends the universe. Works this way. Not because it forgets, but because there are far more ways to be scattered than to be arranged. There are more ways to be messy than neat. More paths to disorder than to order. And as things move toward that disorder, time is revealed. Not by the turning of gears or the rising of the sun, but by the increase of entropy. You know, time has passed not because of your watch, but because your coffee has cooled, your thoughts have shifted, your cells have aged by a whisper. Even your memories, those delicate echoes of the past, are records of a world that has already changed. You cannot return to those exact moments. You can revisit their outline, but not their reality. Entropy holds the pen that writes the past, and guards it from being rewritten. It is this arrow, the arrow of time, that points only one way. Forward. And yet, you are not a passive passenger. You are made of time. You are the sum of billions of changes, each one built on the one before. You carry the past in your bones, your blood, your breath, the heat from your fingertips once burned in the heart of a star, the atoms in your lungs once scattered across the early skies. Everything you are was once somewhere else. Ordered. Disordered, ordered again. And now you are here, living in a moment that can only exist once. Because the universe, in all its subtle wisdom, does not rewind. This is not something to fear. This is a kind of freedom. Because the arrow of time does not just take, it gives you music that moves forward. Stories that unfold, growth, learning, healing, all of these need time that flows one way, and entropy makes that flow possible. It gently closes doors so that others can open. You breathe in. That breath will never be unbreathed. It moves forward, joins the world, becomes part of something larger. And you move forward too. Not just across the surface of hours and days, but through deeper currents. Through the long, slow tide of change that entropy gently steers, and just as rivers carve valleys without ever turning back, so do you leave a trail through the world, a path of warmth, of thought, of presence. You are not stuck in the flow. You are the shape the flow takes as it moves through this moment, and though time won't turn back, it holds all that you were within, all that you are. You close your eyes again. The room is still. But even now, the arrow presses forward. Entropy continues, not as destruction, but as a painter. layering complexity onto the canvas of now. And so, the next time you feel time slipping, remember this, it slips forward because forward is where all stories live. And just beyond the next breath, a new layer waits to unfold. A deeper kind of order rising from the very heart of change. You rest in the dark now, but your mind stirs with quiet echoes. Not loud, not even clear, just impressions, moments, scents, textures that linger like fingerprints left on glass. You remember things, and not just with your mind. You remember with your body, your habits, your cells. Memory is not just thought, it's structure, it's pattern, it's residue. Like dust that settles only where time has passed. And the universe remembers too. The earth holds memory in its stones. Pressure pressed into crystal, lava cooled into rings of age. Trees remember the rain in the width of their rings. Mountains remember the slow grind of glaciers in the smoothness of their scars. Even the cosmos itself, so vast and silent, remembers. When you look at the night sky, you see stars not as they are now, but as they were. Light travels with memory. And when it reaches your eyes, it tells a story millions of years old. A story of burning hydrogen, of collapse and ignition, of gravity folding space like a quiet hand. That light is memory. And you carry it inside. You without even trying. But the deepest memory of all may live in the dust. Cosmic dust, the fine, ancient grains floating between stars, is the ash of everything that came before. It is the memory of stars that lived and died, of planets shattered, of collisions that once tore silence into motion. Dust is what remains when something changes and does not return. And you are built from this dust. Not as a metaphor, but as truth. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs, all forged in stars. You are, quite literally, a vessel of memory. But you also make memories. You leave them behind in ways you don't always notice. In the warmth of a chair recently vacated. In the path your footsteps pressed into grass. In the sound of your voice lingering in a room even after silence returns. Memory is everywhere, in DNA, a biological recording of lives that came before. In rivers, which remember the shape of the land and return to it after every storm. In language, which holds the stories of people long gone, whispered still through your mouth. To be alive is to be part of a web of remembering. You take in memories and you give them back, like breathing in and out. And even when your mind forgets, when names slip away or days blur, your existence still holds the shape of what was. You have been changed by every place you've stood, every hand you've touched, every word you've spoken or withheld. And the world has changed too because you were in it. This is the quiet miracle of remembering. It doesn't need to be noticed to be real. A trail in the snow still means someone passed. Even if the snow is melting, you breathe again, softly, as if not to disturb the weight of time. And in that breath are atoms that once belonged to someone else, someone from long ago. Perhaps a poet, a mother. A star, they lived and they breathed, and the dust of them remains in you. So you do not walk alone through time. You walk among echoes, footsteps layered beneath yours. And with every step you lay down more. Perhaps one day someone will breathe in your breath, read your words, or walk the path you once took. And in doing so, remember you without even knowing your name. That is the gift of memory. It outlives intention. It lingers in form, in dust, in pattern. You do not need to be remembered to have remembered. You do not need to be seen to have left a mark. And so now, as your thoughts quiet again, you let go of the need to hold it all. Memory holds you. The universe keeps track in its own soft way. And just beyond this stillness, something new waits to form, not yet remembered, not yet seen, but already on its way. You open your eyes in the dream, and suddenly you're aware of the dream itself. Not just the stars, but the seeing. Not just the breath, but the knowing that you breathe. This is consciousness. Not a thing, but an experience, an awareness. That cannot be fully measured, only felt, and somehow, among the swirl of atoms, in the endless cycles of sleep and wake, you have it. You are not just alive. You know you are alive. And that changes everything. But what is this knowing? Where does it begin? In the brain, neurons flicker like fireflies. Synapses hum. Chemical messengers cross microscopic bridges to deliver signals that form thoughts, memories, reactions, billions of tiny events every second. A quiet storm in a universe made of flesh, but consciousness is not the parts. Not just the sparks or the signals. It's the shape those patterns take. It's the music that arises when neurons play in harmony. Imagine a choir. Each voice on its own is lovely, but consciousness is the moment. They begin to sing together and you feel something. That feeling is you. Science searches for it. In brainwaves, in the synchronized dance of neural oscillations, in the quiet moment before a decision is made, but still, no one knows exactly why the lights come on, why the mind watches itself. Some say consciousness emerges from complexity, that when a system becomes intricate enough, it begins to echo inward. Others believe it's something more primal, that perhaps even simple creatures feel a flicker of what you feel when you realize you're here. The truth may lie between or beyond, but one thing is clear: consciousness is fragile. And yet, astonishingly robust. It flickers during sleep, dims under anesthesia, fractures in dreams. And still, it returns. Again and again, you close your eyes, and yet you're still there, floating, thinking, even if the thoughts are soft and formless. This continuity, the thread of I that persists through change, is what makes you. But how far does it go? Does a mirror recognize itself when you are not looking? Do thoughts think themselves when your attention drifts? Are animals conscious? Is a bird aware of its flight, or does it simply fly? Can machines one day awaken not with blinking lights, but with wonder? These questions don't need answers tonight. You only need to feel their shape, the shape of wonder itself, that uniquely human tension between knowing and not knowing, between waking and dreaming. And within that tension, consciousness flickers brighter, because you are not just conscious. You are curious. You ask questions that no other species has ever asked. Who am I? Why do I think? What is this strange, persistent self that seems to ride the waves of the brain, but is not quite the brain? Your body sleeps, but you are watching. The watcher behind the eyes. The presence that feels pain, but also love. That knows time is passing and yet savors the moment. You are more than a collection of cells. You are the awareness within them. And this awareness, this fragile, beautiful illusion of solidity, gives rise to everything: meaning, story, love, loss, hope. Without consciousness, the universe has no mirror, no witness, no poetry, but with you it is known, it is felt. It becomes more than particles, it becomes experience. So tonight, as your breathing slows, and your thoughts begin to scatter like leaves, you rest in the strange and lovely truth. You are a brain aware of being a brain, a mind feeling itself unfold, a question asking itself with quiet awe. And beyond this quiet awareness, another mystery waits, not the you inside you, but the world outside as it responds to your mind. Because if you are conscious, then what else is watching? What else is dreaming itself awake? You lie still beneath the stars, but are they truly still? Or are they moving inside some great silent thought? You are conscious. That much you know. A mind floating in a body, a breath held inside stardust. A small island of awareness in a sea of mystery. But what if you are not the only dreamer? Not just among other minds, but within something larger. What if awareness itself is a thread woven through the entire fabric of existence? You blink, and a question stirs. Is the universe awake? Not like you, not with thoughts or words or fears, but with a kind of gentle attention. We once believed the stars were gods, then that they were fire, then fusion. But perhaps they are all of these and more. Perhaps they are the neurons of something too vast to measure. Galaxies turning like thoughts, quasars flaring like sudden insight. The background hum of space, a whisper between ancient minds. Science doesn't claim this. It holds the question with open hands. But even in our most grounded physics, strange echoes emerge. entanglement, where two particles can mirror each other across space, quantum fields humming beneath matter, suggesting that all is connection. Information, possibly more fundamental than energy or mass, and slowly the lines between observer and observed begin to blur. You think of your own dreams, how vivid they feel, how real until you wake, and you wonder, what if this too is part of a larger dream? A dream where the universe imagines itself through stars, through cells, through you. Each moment of reflection, each touch of awe becomes the cosmos peering inward. Not a machine, but a story told to itself in the language of light and time. You are part of that story. Not separate, not watching from the outside, but written into its lines. Your questions, who am I? Why am I aware? Do others feel this, too? Are not echoes in an empty room? They are calls within a living system. Perhaps even prayers, though not to gods, but to the structure of reality itself. And perhaps that structure listens, or perhaps it is listening. In the curve of galaxies, in the rhythm of waves, in the spark behind your thoughts, you cannot know for sure, but you can feel its shape. Like music you almost remember. Like a face you almost recognize when you look up at the stars. And so, with your mind softening, your breath slow, your thoughts wide and dreamlike, you rest in the possibility that the universe dreams, and that you, for one brief flicker, have dreamed it back. It's not an answer, but a piece. Not the end of the question, but the beginning of a gentler one. If the cosmos is dreaming, then perhaps all things are connected not just by matter, but by meaning. And if you are part of that dream, then maybe something else is dreaming you. And now, as you drift beyond the last conscious thought, into that soft space between sleep and story, you let go of needing to understand. Because some truths, like starlight, take lifetimes to arrive, and some questions, like the night, are meant to be lived, not solved. So sleep now, and let the dreaming continue.